Hey guys, I hope you're doing well, and it's fair to say I'm quite exhausted after all that portering and connecting the world. Death Stranding 2 has not been short of a rollercoaster of highs and lows. The game truly is a poetic piece of art. Hideo Kojima's storytelling once again changes the whole gaming landscape, and makes us question reality and the need to preserve humanity, and the profound impacts of the world that has clearly changed, and the desperate need to continue. The game truly is about perseverance and how far we're willing to go and find ourselves, while some might just see it as a walking simulator. This really is peak Hideo Kojima. And after playing several hours and losing sleep because I was so hooked to the world that was before me, when it comes to gaming environments, Death Stranding 2 is beyond mesmerising, and it's not just confined to the same layouts as its predecessor. There's truly a diverse range of beauty and awe around you. Honestly, it was nice to jump back into Hideo Kojima's mind once again, as most of his media usually reflects himself and the philosophical messages he leaves to the audience for us to pick apart. And it's fair to say Death Stranding 2 surpasses its predecessor in many ways. It cuts out all the fluff and engages the player to interact with the open world exploration and gameplay, all in new and exciting ways. And most importantly, the pacing of the game is equally well balanced. It really doesn't seem to drag on unnecessarily like the first one did. It gets to the point, it's nice, it's punctual, it's clear, it's direct. It's very informative whilst combining gameplay and cutscenes at an equal measure. It caters to newcomers and old-timers alike, for those with short attention spans who wish to play the game, and for those who love the cinematic quality of what Hideo Kojima has to offer. This game has the perfect balance. But in typical Kojima fashion, leaves you scratching your head quite a few times. Death Stranding 2 picks up 11 months after the events of the first Death Stranding, following the successful connection of the former United States to the chiral network. At the start of the game, we're pretty much based at the border of Mexico. The game starts out in all of its glory, Sam and Lou on an epic adventure, returning home from the mountain tops, avoiding all kinds of catastrophes and earthquakes. Sam lives secluded away from the world and the UCA and bridges, disguising his hideout with holograms. The beginning of the game is really well presented, with a prominent theme you'll often hear within the game by B.G. Thomas, "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head." At some point, Fragile makes her way into Sam's hideout with a proposition to join her company, Drawbridge, in hopes of still reconnecting the world, and first by starting to put Mexico back on the grid. It's here that a new feature is included into Death Stranding 2, such as a dialogue option, which allows the player to respond to certain monologues of the other characters. However, these don't impact the story and they don't change the outcome. You will notice this function a few times while setting up the network, speaking to preppers and so forth in not cities. Sam's dialogue this time around seems more dulled, he's not as vocal as he was in the first game. Mexico acts as a nice warm-up for those who played the first game and sort of a tutorial stage for newcomers. You don't need to spend too long in Mexico, and at first you just establish a few connections over the border. As I've said, the presentation is breathtaking. The MGS5 style sneaking and infiltration is really a welcome addition. Enemies are a big focal point in this game, with several enemy variants, including something new such as ghost mechs, that come in many forms, and they are by far the most deadliest opponents you'll face in the game. and they are Higgs's private droid army. There's now even a slow motion reflex mode like MGS5, where you can actually take your time if the enemy spots you. Also, aside from, your typical mules, there are advanced forces that can be resistant to certain attacks, either from up close or long range. There's bandits, there's brigates and armed survivalists, and all different kinds of special forces out there. There's even a handy marker system where you can mark the enemies with the order deck, and sometimes it keeps count to tell you how many are in the base, so you get a good idea how many soldiers you're taking out. And now, aside from the regular BTs, there's also watchers, who can actually see you rather than relying on sound. Then there's hunters that rely on the gazers waiting in hiding that can grab you and drag you into the tower unexpectedly. Also, there's golden hunters, and they are way more powerful than the gazers. Finally, there's catchers, and they are one of the most dangerous BTs of them all. If they manage to capture you, they are sure to trigger void outs. There's several BTs to look out for, even ones that fly. So to combat them all, of course you need weaponry, and there's really a nice selection to choose from. Some you will be familiar with the first game, and there's some new others. Depending on how many missions you do for certain preppers will of course give you unlockables to higher class guns and equipment. Let me tell you, there's an incredible assortment of weaponry ranging from assault rifles that have different functions that can switch between automatic and semi-automatic, to close and deadly shotguns with spread fire, to the useful non-lethal bowler gun to intercept enemies in their tracks, to all the way to heavy machinery such as the rocket launcher, grenade launchers and the sleek and simple pistols. And just the downright eccentric weaponry like the boomerang that mostly is effective against BTs and requires Sam's blood. This thing can even act like the cufflinks, where you can cut the BT's umbilical cord and setting them free in stealth mode. And as a typical boomerang, it has the ability to make its way back to you once you've fired it. And there's plenty of other weapons as well that you can use out there in the field, including turrets and mortars. There's an incredible selection for you to use when you're simply trying to infiltrate past a base or just using it for self-defense. The chiral shot cannon fires chiral particles that you can collect that penetrate walls and knock human targets unconscious, and inflict significant damage to BTs and mechs. You'll notice on the Fabricate Equipment menu ample information regarding the weapon's effectiveness and the materials required to make them, and most importantly including what the weapon is most effective against in terms of certain enemy variants. There's even a sniper rifle that you can use that's perfect for long distance to pick off enemies at long range, and if you don't feel like getting up close and personal, this is the best option, although it does make quite a bang unless you actually succeed in doing all the missions for the lone commander. That gives you the ability to unlock the suppressor that makes life a lot easier out there when you're sniping not to blow your cover. It's honestly one of the best features in the game because you have to be careful with bullet drop depending on the distance and height that you're shooting from. And it's not even your own weapons in the arsenal you can use. If you defeat the ghost mechs, you can actually use something called the Ghost Blade, and believe me, these mechs' weapons are 10 times more powerful than the ones that you acquire. And it's really fun just to get stuck into the action using the blades for yourselves. You even get usage of the heavy machine gun, which absolutely rips apart any mech units that come by the droves, because at times there can be armies of them that can overwhelm you, but if you take out the big heavy mechs that usually drop them, this gun absolutely rips them apart. Considering this game's meant to be a walking simulator, there's a decent amount of transport methods in the game, just like before, with trucks and bikes. However, their appearances are a lot different from the first game. and instead of being inside the trucks, you're in like a convertible style one this time in the second game. Altogether, you get the Tri-Cruiser, a nimble, fast freewheeler, and it's great for off-road and speed, and it can be outfitted with armour and extra battery packs once your porter grade rises or via facility rewards. Trucks, or rather the pickup off-roader, is where the magic really happens, and it features a sticky cannon upgrade that automatically picks up nearby cargo. You can also add weapons like the sticky cannon, heavy machine gun and a chiral cannon. It's awesome because it automatically locks onto enemies whilst you focus on the driving. And I can't put into words how much better the driving mechanics are compared to the clunky ones in DS1, and by far my favourite is the coughing board. Which is based off of Higgs's coffin that can manifest tar to ride on any environment, especially tar, giving it the edge over other vehicles. However, it cannot be used outside of the chiral network. That is the only downside. The possibility with these things are absolutely endless. You can use them against several enemy variants to aid you for attacks, or you could just simply use it for a bit of rest to hide away from the enemies and use stun grenades when they get close. Who would have thought such thing as a coffin could have been so useful out there? I mean, it's only good for when you kick the bucket, but in Death Stranding, you can use it for so much more. The beauty of Death Stranding is the online function or the multiplayer aspects that allow the players in their servers to build structures, ones that we're familiar with from the first game, such as roads and bridges and essential survival props out in the field. There's now new additions in the game called the monorail, which is actually part of the transportation sector, but this thing is absolutely epic. It's practically a train on elevated rails, and it can carry huge containers of anything you wish to store, and this rail connects around all of Australia. You can even hitch a ride on it, and most of these rails are connected to another new function in the game called mines. Once you get these several mines up and running with the right materials, you can use the materials it excavates to build roads and other such features out there in the field, while you gather resources for you to transport and build whatever you desire, and transport them using the monorail to different locations.
Very good, Sam. Now all you have to do is load the extracted materials onto the monorail for transport.
This is a really nice addition to Death Stranding, and it takes the workload off building structures all that much more. Compared to the original Death Stranding, it was way much more of a chore having to gather resources and materials to build your structures. Well, in Death Stranding 2, that's a whole lot easier now if you get these mines up and running. And the PCC tool that allows you to craft structures has also received a massive upgrade with its props. For example, you can now hide in post boxes, or when using the zipline, you can now change its course to avoid obstacles in your way, choosing to go around or over, including having the ability to use the floating carrier atop of the zipline to carry additional cargo. Watchtowers now allow you to mark enemies and gives you a thermal imaging screen to scan bases for more information. Timefall shelters have had a massive upgrade too. Aside from fixing your containers, you can now shelter inside of one, and if any BTs are in your vicinity, it emits a repellent liquid to deter them. Bridges are vastly longer this time, and they don't drain your battery whilst going over them. Safe houses are better than ever. Aside from the private room, you get a garage as well, where vehicles can be fabricated and repaired. Also, you get something called the transponder, which is a device that allows you to teleport anywhere on the map, since we can't rely on fragile anymore. But of course you can't take your packages, And lastly, you get the catapult that was used to fire cargo to the designated area, but now it can be used as a weapon as well. And there's a really cool upgrade you can get for the catapult, and it's a side mission that involves using an aviation engineer that's based up in the snowy mountains. If you fancy taking a bit of a flight yourself, you can actually get yourself inside the catapult launcher and take a flight to your destination.
Come meet my crew, Sam.
Now, the DHV Magellan in Death Stranding 2 is something that we've seen many times in the trailer, but it's a revolutionary mobile base and fast travel vessel that transforms how we explore the world. It's introduced early into the story just after defeating the Mecha BT boss fight during the Investigate the Unusual Tar Currents mission, when Fragile guides you aboard and it becomes your operational hub.
Hi, Sam.
Once integrated into the chiral network, the Magellan can sail through the tar and across connected chiral zones, and travelling wherever it needs to once you've connected these knots. Its power lies in rapid traversal. You can climb aboard, open the map, hold X to pick up any previously networked location, and the Magellan teleports both itself and Sam there instantly in certain scenarios if it's not broken down during the story mode, with all onboard cargo and even vehicles on board, although the Magellan evaluation mechanic will reduce your delivery likes about 75% to prevent exploitation. As a base, the Magellan includes crew cabins similar to Bridges' private rooms, and shared shower facilities, and an armory where weapons are checked, upgraded and tested, and there is several different camos perfectly tailored to the environment and ones that actually really serve some importance when infiltrating bases. There's several selection of hats to choose from, including a Kojima Productions hat. You can even change the direction in which you wish to place it, including your glasses, and you can even change Dollman's outfit as well. Basically, nearly everything you can think of is customizable to your needs. Most importantly, a VR helmet which allows you to simulate missions that you would usually undertake in the real world. There's different level scenarios, including level types themselves, and this really reminded me of Metal Gear Solid's VR mod, especially Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Rising with its layout. Nearly everything that's required to be the ultimate porter is there, although truth be told, this VR training feels like it's prepping us for a solo sneaking infiltration mission to rescue the President and destroy Metal Gear. But honestly, it's the greatest way to tweak them skills, and it's a nice nod to Kojima's previous games we all know and love.
Nice work.
I mean, yeah, the resemblance is definitely there. There's even Easter eggs of some of Kojima's favourite novels that Dollman reads to you. It really does break the meta-narrative, and the game actually acknowledges itself and its creator in typical Kojima fashion. The Moby Dick book is definitely a reference to Metal Gear Solid 5, where Venom Snake is nicknamed Ahab, echoing the delusional captain in Moby Dick's obsessed with hunting a great whale. Here symbolic of chasing an impossible truth or revenge. Big Boss takes the role of Ishmael, the narrator who survives to tell the tale, hinting on how the real Big Boss remains hidden while Venom is left to carry out the myth.
Judging by your reaction, you've never heard of Kojima Productions? Sam, you can't be serious.
It's epic because it's like you get a peek inside of Kojima's inspirations for what helps him write these magnificent tales and video games that we so often play. That it's all inspired by some of these great novels. But isn't that the brilliance of a Hideo Kojima game, is the fact that the game actually recognises itself and it is very self-aware. It isn't a stranger to poking fun at itself and leaving these odd but strange Easter eggs for us to find. Naturally, as anyone who's a Metal Gear Solid fan is going to feel right at home whilst playing Death Stranding 2.
A dramatic retelling of these events was committed to film prior to the Death Stranding. Titled Mary Shelley, it stars Elle Fanning in the lead role. Now, where have I heard that name before?
So you can personalise the Magellan in many ways, but the sad thing is you can't explore it as you wish. Like MGS5 with Mother Base.
Our new Mother Base. I don't know how long it'll take, but I'll make it bigger.
But it has some crucial story points on board and some funny and nightmare sequences that are there. I mean, come on, Kojima literally just ripped this idea straight out of Metal Gear Solid 3, and I'm all for this. Plus you've got Dollman who can keep you company and you can ask him several questions, in which he does in the majority of the game, often giving you advice, and even acting as a scout out in the field when you toss him into the air, acting as a portable watchtower. There's even a social media system in the game where NPCs will show you their daily life and discoveries out in the field for you to find. You can even upload your own journeys when you're out there and about, but sadly there's no online function for this to communicate with other players. The multiplayer function works as before, which is a shame because I was kinda hoping for some co-op action portering with our friends in real time. There's a great selection of equipment for every need without bogging down the game and the pace. For example, you can actually scale up ladders even quicker this time round. You don't have to worry about being shot off the mark because you can actually now double up your ladders to make them longer. And ropes have longer length and allow you to rappel down and even up now. The smaller but neater presentation works a lot better than the cluttered interface of the original. You can easily arrange your cargo using the directional buttons to unload and even out your cargoes for better balance so you don't fall. You can even drop your backpack at any time and come back and retrieve it without scattering your equipment everywhere. There's been a big quality of life feature upgrade in Death Stranding 2, and that really makes it a joy to play, as well as an incentive to engage with the new game upgrade system. And the upgrade system in Death Stranding 2 just adds an all new layer to an already a fantastic fun experience. Throughout there in your missions and journeys, depending on how your playstyle is, Sam's stats will automatically level depending on how you play. In Death Stranding 2 there's something called Automated Porter Assistance System, known as APAS in short. It really looks like Kojima broke away from the old gear and grind and built a dynamic suite of skill trees and passive growth that transform how you play overall. And here's how it works. From early on you equip APAS enhancements, powerful upgrades tailored to your style, with stealth, combat, traversal, cargo delivery, and all drawn from a shared resource called APAS Memory. You can earn memory points by completing story missions, earning porter grade XP from deliveries, combat, stealth, and community contributions, and by connecting settlements to the chiral network. As your network grows and your reputation improves, you unlock more memory, allowing you to slot in additional upgrades, and you can even reset them. APAS is split into 4 categories: Porter, Combat, Stealth, and Servicemanship, each with its own skill branches. Porter upgrades give improved traversal, balance, and cargo handling. Combat gives you aim assist, grenade buffs, armor recovery. Stealth sharpens noise reduction and hidden movement. Servicemanship boosts delivery, rewards, repair speed, and helper functions. Each enhancement costs memory, but because you can swap them freely at any ring terminal, you can build a specialized SAM for whatever mission lies ahead, be it intense firefights or stealthy infiltrations, allowing you to switch whenever you choose. With all of that being said, covering most of what can be done of the important aspects of the gameplay is truly phenomenal. It can be very addictive and time consuming. I once spent an entire 14 hours without sleep on the 24th when this game came out on the Deluxe Edition. Yes, I was that hooked like an addict. It's just an amalgamation and a combination of elements that make playing Death Stranding 2 an incredible experience. Considering the open world is empty, but this one has a lot more life and more contrast, from the dynamic weather systems or natural disasters such as earthquakes, landslides, avalanches and floods. The environment is forever changing, making you plan and carefully determine your routes on every adventure. The map has been vastly improved on to plan out your next move, and along the way you encounter several obstacles, making it a fun and challenging open world with so much freedom. The game doesn't feel forced, it entices you, knowing that every step feels crucial to uncover the breathtaking story that this game has so often presented the entire time. The night and day cycle reinforces everything I've mentioned. It's a post-apocalyptic open world, to say the least. Death Stranding 2 is not trying to be something it's not. If you're looking for an open world theme park very reminiscent to the GTA franchise, it's not designed to be that way, and it's probably not going to be for you. It is a dystopian world of human life trying to cling on to existence and the will to rebuild and reforge from the ashes. Say for instance if something messed up did happen in this world as of now, which by looking at the world today, it's probably quite possible. We're probably going to get World War III before GTA 6. For a simpleton, the game is often referred to as just a walking simulator, while drool pours out of their mouth.
Y'all can fuck off. No?
If you ask me, it's a lazy, unspeculative term thrown around without at least understanding the game is clearly so much more. And I get it, some people just don't have the time to play such complex and confusing games, which is understandable. Some just want to plug and play. This isn't me trying to be a bigot. But who cares, right? Walking definitely isn't a necessity. It's only one of the most human fundamental things we need to navigate around this world, and pretty much nearly every video game I see incorporates walking. But the game is obviously so much more. You fight epic bosses.
It's the good old-fashioned boss fight.
You ride around in awesome transportation, you build communities, connect grids in the chiral network, and dispose of enemies with weapons that are vast and endless to choose from. And the fitting context that is based around the likes of Kobe Abe, the rope and the stick, the importance of its meaning in human functionality. You're climbing mountains and trying to keep warm, and surviving the harsh climate that injures you and causes fatigue, which makes Death Stranding 2 way much more than it appears on the surface. It's not tied to any genre, it's a mixture of everything we love about Kojima's games and why they stand out and remain unique. I mean, the charts speak for themselves, it even toppled Mario Kart. As a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, there were moments where I had goosebumps and at some points even had tears in my eyes. And I haven't felt those emotions for so long that Kojima games so often in vogue. Elements of his previous titles echo throughout Death Stranding 2's narrative, and believe me, it shows in so many ways. From the characters and their interactions, Neil's homage to Solid Snake with a bandana and the smoking, even the dialogue that is emphasised to Metal Gear Solid.
It's due to my connection with said missing piece that I can read the movements of the tower. Something akin to a phantom pain.
Attention! Diamond Dogs! Even with Skullface dead, our brothers are unavenged. And the phantom pain he brought us lives on.
There's moments that really triggered this point. Even the epic showdown between Sam and Higgs at the end of the game is a battle that's very reminiscent of Liquid and Snake in MGS1 and MGS4. The Metal Gear references in this game are insane.
That old familiar feeling. Get you waiting, huh? You and me. It ain't over yet.
Come on now, again with that shit!
So after reaching the end of this game, I was left speechless. With Death Stranding 2, I think we have witnessed gaming in all of its glory, and how we remembered it to be all them years back. This game doesn't feel like another soulless corporate rush game, a clone of a game we've seen too many times. Death Stranding 2 is a game that is everything right with the gaming landscape, and I believe it will go down as a timeless classic and will be remembered years on. I say this because Death Stranding 1 never reached those kind of heights because what Kojima did was ahead of its time. It's remarkable now to see how many people who are making videos on the origin of this series that have been labelled as misunderstood, or those simply jumping on the bandwagon finally recognising the greatness of this game. The entirety of Death Stranding 2's story had me gripped to the edge of my seat. Most of the cutscene placements were presented with good pace, not dragging on for far too long. Instead, the dialogue was more impactful, shorter, but far more informative. It's fair to say I was blown away by the revelations I discovered about the story. And about 3 months ago, I made a video speculating and theorising about its narrative, and it's incredible how much we as a community got right. There were moments where everything that was unfolding that was really confirming the suspicions that I had, and you guys included. The reinforcement of the plot made it all the more enjoyable for those who have played the first game. And I doubt that would be the same for those who didn't care much for the first. So really, if you're playing the second game, go back and play the first, because the second game will be quite underwhelming and you'll just be confused if you haven't played the first one.
You know, I'd say this is a happy ending, but our story ain't over yet.
But without further ado, I'm going to uncover the plots that we've long been speculating for all this time. So do be aware for spoilers and click away from this video if you don't want this to happen. I'm going to dive into the characters and explain the abilities in which they possess, as well as discussing some of the characters from the first game and what became of them. Then I'll eventually explain the main plot and the story of the game. So do buckle up, because it's really quite profound. So early into the game, Sam meets the president of the Automatic Public Assistance Company, or for short APAC. The company is a bankrolling draw, bridges and Sam's effort to connecting Australia to the chiral network. APAC, also known as APAS, is a system used throughout the game to improve Sam's performance and skills, as we've touched up on. Towards the end of the game, the president confides in Sam through a private channel that he believes there's someone working against them. He tells Sam not to inform the others.
Sam, I'm contacting you via a different protocol. This private mode affords me a direct connection to you alone. It seems Drawbridge has reason to suspect that APAC may have been involved in the production of ghost mechs. This possibility concerned me as well, so I conducted my own investigation and reaffirmed that APAC's underlying technologies are iterations of an older Bridges framework. What I'm getting at, Sam, is that the guilty party is not APAC, but Bridges, which is to say the UCA may also have some involvement with ghost mech production.
It ends up that the president himself, however, is not to be trusted, and he wasn't real in the first place as we speculated. The president, who has been working with Sam at the very start, is just another robot AI controlled by an entity referred to as APAS 4000. Sometime in the past, there was a void out that killed 4,000 people, and these souls somehow converged with the APAS AI system that handled deliveries. Sounds very much like Metal Gear Solid 2, doesn't it? The AI company APAS 4000 then went about consorting the plan to make humans into souls that would be trapped in the world of the dead. APAS 4000 views this as reclaiming the world before there was a Death Stranding, but it would ultimately kill all humans, and everybody would be subjugated to this AI control.
The mapping of the human genome was completed early this century. As a result, the evolutionary log of the human race lay open to us.
We started with genetic engineering, and in the end, we succeeded in digitizing life itself.
So we'll live forever as a bunch of dead people.
You will be neither alive nor dead, but endure as a soul.
What's gonna happen to this world?
We will continue to keep watch over all remaining life on Earth until the end of time. As caretakers, we will regulate the activity of other species to ensure that none claim your mantle of apex predator. Humanity will be free to thrive in perpetuity, having evolved into a form that allows you to escape extinction, as is your desire.
So everyone wondered what happened to Deadman after assuming he passed on, and never lives in the afterlife because we're told he has no soul, and the only connection he had to the beach was because he was connected to Sam and Lou. The trailers were presented in a way that gives this impression, but Deadman reappears early in Mexico, albeit in a hologram video recording, as Sam heads west under Fragile's call. Originally introduced into the first game as the quirky Cavalier-crafted Bridges doctor, it's in Mexico that we find out that it appears that he is dead, and he is certainly well moved on to the afterlife, or as we know it in the game to be, his own beach.
It doesn't matter how I was born. I have lived as a human. And thus do I possess a beach like any other. I am not a machine, but a person with a ha and a ka and a beach to go with them.
But this isn't the only time we see him. We see him throughout the game as he appears several times to assist Sam in his expedition across Australia. And the Red Samurai character, which was shrouded in ambiguity in the trailers because we had no idea who was behind it, is actually Deadman. The same guy who helped us out in the warehouse with Higgs and had this epic battle. We see him in the red armoured samurai suit just cutting his way through mechs. It's definitely a homage to Grey Fox from Metal Gear Solid, and including the red frequency blade that we often see Sam, ironically, in Metal Gear Solid Rising wield in the game.
Now, make me feel it. Make me feel alive again.
Okay. Let's dance!
At first we assumed it was Lou, hence all the baby sounds, but this is a direct nod to Deadman's close connection with Lou and BB's from the first game. Or it really could have been Lou from the beach, possessing the suit at the time. But it is revealed in an epic moment in the last parts of the game to finally connect the Last Knot City on an intense showdown on a bridge against armies of mechs. It's revealed that Red Samurai is definitely Deadman. When the suit unzips, you can see his corpse resting within, and his soul, enabling him to have the connection with his body, can jump back into this mech suit machine. I couldn't help but get goosebumps at this moment because it reminded me so much of Grey Fox after we fight him and he died in Zanzibar only to return to help us in a crucial moment in Shadow Moses. Deadman seems to have manifested powers similar to Higgs, being able to control objects and even someone's soul from the beach. There's an eerie moment in the Magellan regarding Hartman where he appears to be sleepwalking, sending people messages he doesn't remember. What's actually happening is Deadman is controlling Hartman's body, all while Hartman is temporarily dead, mapping the beach and searching for his family. Deadman has the ability to possess Hartman because Hartman is using Deadman's heart, which gives Deadman his connection to Hartman.
Sorry if I gave you a scare. While Hartman is off conducting his near-death excursions, I am borrowing his body. My soul is normally confined to the beach, but for 3 minutes, I get to be here.
How's that possible?
Because he has my heart.
You're telling me that's...
My parting gift to Hartman, yes. Per his request, I bequeathed it before departing on my one-way trip to the beach.
Deadman also implies that somebody falsified the records about BB-28 in Mexico, when in actual reality it was him all along to secure the safety of Sam and Lou.
It was yours truly. My intention was to leave no trace of a second BB-28 or of Lou. I wanted you to be free to live your lives, unburdened by the past.
Deadman doesn't appear nearly as much as he does in Death Stranding 1, but when he does, it hits where it counts.
It goes without saying, but I was not born into this world with this doll as my ha. Would you like to hear how I came to be in this condition?
So when it comes to Dollman, this little fella turns out to have an interesting backstory as well. He's not just a walking, talking mechanical puppet. In a way, he's sort of like Higgs. His soul resides inside of a vessel, but in Dollman's case, inside of the doll.
Oh, what about you? Hey, buddy. Are you just another soulless little husk, huh?
Let go of me!
His wife was working on an isolation ward which found itself in a tar tsunami caused after a seismic gatequake that made the disaster unfold. After these events, the site was restricted, but it didn't stop Dollman and his daughter from breaking into the ward, since his daughter wished to see her mother again, and in doing so her mother was of course a BT. The song Dollman's Child was playing triggered a destructive response, triggering tar to form and other BTs to manifest, dragging Dollman and his daughter into the tar, laying lifeless. Fragile stumbles across Dollman and his daughter, but just before she leaves she hears Dollman inside the doll that his daughter was carrying. His daughter was meant to be trapped inside the doll, but Dollman set her soul free, to the afterlife, just as Dollman intended for himself, but got stuck.
Here for the rest of eternity, that's that.
Want to come work for me instead? Your ha's no good to you now.
And as it turns out, in a weird turn of events, after Lou dies and Sam is dealing with his grief of his loss, Dollman and Fragile constructed a secret plan that would ensure Sam could continue expanding the chiral network. Dollman acted as a proxy to Lou that allowed Sam to detect BTs, all whilst playing along with the illusion that Lou was in the pod when she never was. But all of this will make sense when I get to that part.
And I'd say we're making progress.
I don't understand.
She asked me to help.
What?
Before we set out on our journey together, Fragile, she asked me to help you. To act as your therapist so that you could process the loss of your child. Sam, hear me out. Lou's been gone for a long, long time now.
No. Lou's right here. We just traveled across Australia together. I'll show you.
The pod you brought on this journey has been empty from the start. The truth is, I'm the one who's been operating your Odra deck, and it's because of that connection that I was able to share your flashbacks.
Hey, sir. Can you take a picture of us?
What the fuck is going on here?
Did you like it?
Rainey was exiled by her own people because of her Doom's condition. Unwittingly, that triggers timefall, the corrupting aging rain that causes accelerated aging. Whenever she steps outside, this happens, and she became labelled a witch. She survived by herself, carrying profound shame and isolation, yet Rainey's story takes a hopeful turn, as Fragile calls her a Farkamon.
Someone who's been looking for you and your power.
You want my power? Why?
You're a pharmacon. Medicine that can harm, poison that can heal. It's all in how you use it.
A medicine that can kill or cure. And whilst her presence accelerates decay through timefall, around her blooms something called corefall this time around. It reverses timefall damage and all of its effects. It can bring back to life practically anything from ravaged terrain, trees, plants, and even dead wildlife. We see this vividly in her sanctuary, where birds die falling out of the sky and she can regain their strength under her touch. She plays a massive role in Death Stranding 2, and it's thanks to her that this desolate world can actually start springing to life once again.
When she's outside, Rainey's constantly surrounded by timefall. But within a 1.5 meter radius of her body, a different kind of precipitation is observed. We call it corefall. Anything it touches is restored to an earlier state. In other words, it has the power to heal and repair, to counteract timefall's effects.
Beyond her elemental powers, Rainey carries a child with still baby syndrome, an unborn baby frozen at 7 months. Her baby is alive, but locked in stasis, unable to grow or be delivered, and any attempt to give birth results in death, making the fetus permanently stuck in the womb. And this syndrome begins spreading after the expansion of the chiral network, which disrupted the world's natural balance with the beach, the metaphysical realm between life and death. The doctors believe the network's reach has affected how time and life flow, especially in regions more deeply connected to the upper layers of the beach. And we don't really see no conclusion to what happens with Rainey's child, but she does get to see that the child is still alive and well. But she has to go back into the womb because she can't survive outside of it for too long. However, saying that, at the end of the game it is implied that Rainey does have her child.
But there's still no treatment, is there?
When the balance between our world and the beach is finally restored, you will give birth.
With that said, that brings us on to the Motherhood, who is the one who took a look at Rainey's child. And the Motherhood itself is basically a self-defense group for mothers and children who have escaped violence primarily at the hands of men. They are basically a feminist organisation, to put it lightly, that are very distrustful of men. There were many of them who lived inside a facility, but only a few of them survived. It's more than likely that some of them could have been victims of Bridges' BB experiments and so forth. If we look at Death Stranding 1 and see Cliff's wife or Sam's mother, they resemble the women of the Motherhood with the bald heads. And at the head of the organisation is known as the Doctor, also referred to as a psychic midwife, based on her ability to remove babies from still mothers' wombs with nothing but her hands, which is possible because of her dooms and chiral hands, 2 right hands rather than a pair of hands which mirror each other. As a doom sufferer, the Doctor was once a member of Bridges and its expedition to Mexico before heading to Australia, and that's where she finally broke free from their twisted experiments.
So your BB's passed on.
You have dooms then, I take it.
I do. And it's given me an unusual gift. I can remove a BB from a still mother's womb without resorting to invasive surgery, and safely place it in a pod with minimal distress to the fetus.
Without using any tools whatsoever? So you're a psychic surgeon then?
A psychic midwife is what they call me.
Tarman is an interesting guy who acts as the pilot for the DHV Magellan ship. He's a geophysicist who suffers from dooms as well, which allows him to insert his right arm into the ship nav's console. With Tarman's right hand lost somewhere in the tar, its presence there seems to allow him to read the tar currents. He has a sad backstory and has lost his son in a tragic event whilst riding the high seas whilst hunting for tar mammals. Upon his son investigating the whale, assuming it was pregnant, out-hatched several hunter BTs hiding within its womb, serving as a gateway from the living to the dead, dragging Tarman's son into the void out of the tar along with his hand. With that event, a mysterious tar cat appeared and serves as Tarman's companion ever since. Tarman believes this cat to be his son.
At first, I thought this little guy was my son reborn.
So now let's touch up on Fragile. As we know, she has the ability to jump anywhere in the world and in and out of the beach. In the trailer, we had the impression she was struggling to use her abilities. Death Stranding 2 confirms it's because of her tragic fate. She died early in Death Stranding 2 and exists only as a lingering spirit, her soul as a surviving essence from beyond the abyss. This loss means she can't physically anchor herself to the world in the same way. She's essentially untethered. The only reason she can appear at all is through this ghostly remnant. But we'll get to that and why that is later. So Higgs continues to want to see the world destroyed. He said he had been alone for tens of thousands of years on the beach after being given the choice to stay alive by Fragile at the end of the first game.
This is all my fault. I had him at my mercy on the Analyse beach. If I'd only finished him off, none of this would have happened.
Then APAS 4000 brought him back from the beach to have him compel Sam to work with drawbridges and connect Australia. They even provided him with a ghost mech army. Higgs, however, had plans of his own. So who are the red cult-like attackers that we see in the trailer? Well, they're not exactly human. The group are in fact red mechanical soldiers 3D printed by a reborn Higgs, as I kinda touched up on in the latter. But Higgs didn't just come back to life by himself. His soul was revived thanks to an entity known as APAS.
Empowering Higgs was a necessary step. It was we, you see, who built his ghost mech army for him, to use as he deemed fit.
What the hell are you talking about?
An existential threat was required to prompt you to seek strength through mutual connections. It was also necessary for APAC to equip you with sticks of your own. After all, we are incapable of murder.
Who's we? Wait, don't tell me. You're not human, are you?
Who are you? To begin with, we're not what you'd call human.
Higgs served as a complement to an all-encompassing algorithm.
That very same private corporation that manages the automated delivery robots transporting packages around the UCA and so forth into other regions since humans have become irrelevant.
By utilizing our servers on the beach, we can remain connected to this world. In this way, we can oversee and restrict your activities to ensure another void out never occurs.
Their goal is to connect Mexico and then later Australia to the chiral network to open up even more plate gates and eventually link up the entire world under AI control. But behind the scenes, APAS is actually run by a sentient entity, as I've touched up on, known as APAS 4000, just to remind you guys, which is the fusion of the APAS AI system that manages deliveries and 4,000 human souls from people who were killed in a massive void out. Their ultimate goal is to elevate all humans into souls, preventing humanity from evolving and instead keeping them trapped in the world of the dead by stopping them from triggering another void out ever again. It would keep Earth's population safe, but at the cost of what makes them human. And all those scattered machines that we see that are very similar to Outer Heaven in MGS4 is just a reflection of APAS's control in the beach, linking machine with the dead. which changing people into digital entities is the shape of their visions, basically acting as the new Patriots from Metal Gear Solid but on steroids. Higgs may have been brought back by APAS 4000 to try and push along its plans, but Higgs is by no means a pawn. Instead, Higgs uses his newfound robot body to carry out a separate, more personally fueled plan of revenge against Sam and Fragile.
Oh, no, I'm just a ghost. Come to take my revenge on you and that bitch Fragile. All the way from the other side.
It was he who attacked Fragile and Lou, and while Sam was busy reconnecting Mexico, and eventually it's revealed that Higgs' plan was to finish what he started in the first Death Stranding game and bring about the end of the world via the last Stranding. He's seen many times throughout the game but seemingly cannot be killed because of his soul being on the beach and it being a vessel to his artificial body. Another theory that we were correct on, but if you play the game and you often wonder why Higgs can't just be taken out there and then, and why this weird mechanical strange distortion happens when he gets attacked, is because he's in an artificial body.
What the fuck?
A ghost mech? So he's, what, Mecha Higgs?
Absurd disappointment. But I don't break that easy. So be it.
And this is even implied at some point in the story when he actually uses the red samurai suit that Deadman was using. It's more than likely he disposed of his corpse for himself to use it.
I'm so glad that you asked. You see, during my lengthy imprisonment, I had time to figure it out. All I needed was a catalyst with a connection to Amelie, and I could break through to her beach.
That connection is long gone.
Oh, Sam. Sweetheart, I'm not talking about you. This is the catalyst that I've been searching for.
So Die Hardman makes a return after being the former president of the UCA. So he goes into hiding under secrecy of the alias Charlie, who had been pretending to follow the game's lead antagonist alongside Higgs.
Take it not even APAS was aware that I've been posing as Charlie this whole time. It's funny, don't you think?
He activates a special drawbridge Cupid under the help of Lockney and Mama, who we don't actually ever see in the game, to sever the connection between APAS and the dead, thus allowing humanity to travel again and build its own future without a soulless machine telling them to do so.
To build a bridge to the future we want to see. To choose our own path forward.
Interestingly, as the player, upon meeting Charlie, will be able to select a different voice suited to the player's favourite characters. However, the ironic thing is that you can only pick Die Hardmans, which was a clue in itself that Charlie was always Die Hardman. There is one scene in particular that completely flips the serious atmosphere of the game on its head. As the soulless president gives a speech about the malicious intent to bind the living and the dead under APAS's control, Die Hardman, in the appearance of Charlie, does an unexpected wild dance routine that just flips the narrative into an hilarious cutscene. Enraged, the actor who plays the president is also who plays Senator Armstrong in MGS Rising. You can subtly hear his voice in the entire game, only up until he snaps and you can really hear the senator's rage in full form.
Just who is pulling your strings?
We are no one's puppets. Least of all yours. You have no power over us.
Where are you? Since you certainly aren't on our beach. Fuck American pride! Fuck the media! Fuck all of it!
But thanks to Die Hardman, the DHV Magellan was all of his doing this entire time, fooling the new Patriots as a proxy ocelot and allowing humanity to adapt and evolve to the Death Stranding. Just beautiful.
What took you so long?
What took you so long? What took you so long?
You knew about this?
APAS has been monitoring us for some time. I believe the deception was necessary to avoid discovery. But I'm sorry for keeping you all in the dark.
And Ocelot, in order to fool the system, used nanomachines and psychotherapy to transplant Liquid's personality onto his own. He used hypnotic suggestion to turn himself into Liquid's mental doppelganger.
To put away my body for a while. Stop being Die Hardman. Become a ghost. Named Charlie instead.
So this one's about Neil and Lucy, and as we know, Neil is one of the new pivotal characters in Death Stranding 2, who shares a deep, enigmatic bond with Sam and the mysterious beach. His story sequences unfold through haunting immersive memories that echo the style of Clifford Unger's iconic flashbacks from the first game, pulling players into fragmented worlds that mirror critical places tied to Neil's past and his identity. His story unfolds very similar to Cliff, as a man on a mission to ensure the safety is something he cares about. From what we know, Neil Varner was a smuggler who worked similarly in the porter business like Sam, but instead of a package or whatever, he delivered brain-dead pregnant women whose babies would be sacrificed to the Bridges project and become BBs. When Sam plugs into the BB pod, it triggers these memories of Neil. In the Death Stranding, when Neil was a child in a Mexican town, he was surrounded by towering BTs causing havoc. His pendant necklace falls onto his hand, burning the symbol into his hand, where it was there he met Lucy, Strand. Yes, you guessed it, Sam's ex-partner who helped Neil after his leg was damaged in the chaos. At some point, a building falls apart, causing Lucy to be trapped underneath the wreckage, and Neil tries to save Lucy by grabbing her hand, embedding the same symbol we see into Lucy's hand, but panics and decides to run away after seeing huge BTs and his parents call his name, leaving Lucy stranded. Fast forward into the future, Lucy is, as implied in the first game, a psychologist, and Neil is working for Bridges, who is an ex-drug smuggler, now forced by Bridges to do the dirty work to overlook his crimes. In truth, we see Neil go to a session with Lucy explaining his troubles. Lucy notices the symbol burned into Neil's hand, realising it's the same one in hers. Since the incident when they were children, angry and frustrated, she attacks Neil, realising that he left her for dead.
The girl. You're alive.
The flashbacks hint at Neil and Lucy Strand having a secret relationship behind Sam Porter's back. However, Lucy was in love with Sam and was carrying his child, and as we know from the first game. She decides to call it off with Neil, and Neil becomes frustrated as he claims he loves Lucy regardless of her carrying Sam's child.
This thing between us, it was a mistake.
No, it was not a mistake. It was not a mistake.
We just got...
Look at me.
We got caught up in our emotions. We weren't thinking straight, that's all.
It was not a mistake. I don't care if it's his baby you're carrying. To say I love you.
I love him, Neil. Which means this has to end.
As he leaves, he gives Lucy the scarf we so often see Neil wear as a bandana as a homage to Solid Snake. In the first Death Stranding, the story given to Sam and us the audience in the reports was that Lucy committed suicide. That appears not to be the case. It seems that Lucy was approached to give up her baby to Bridges, likely because of Sam being the father and carrying dooms and being a repatriate. Bridges realised how special of a child it would be, so Lucy sought the help of Neil to smuggle her and her child into Mexico. Neil, indebted to Lucy, wasn't going to abandon her this time around, so he made arrangements to sneak her out of the country. Those efforts did become futile as Neil and Lucy were shot by the Bridges guards, and Neil's sacrifice was that case. Ultimately murdered, and those reports were doctored to make it look like it was self-inflicted, as the ones we saw in the original game.
The extraction was successful. BB-00 was transferred to a sterilized pod and sent to a separate facility.
Ready to proceed with corpse disposal. 1 male, 1 female.
Impossible. What the hell?
How long has it been like this?
He's already succumbed to necrosis.
What the hell? This doesn't make any sense. Call the PD. Now go get out of here!
Lou was taken out of Lucy to be used as a BB, with her body left on a medical table waiting for Sam to show up. While Neil did die, he didn't cross over, thus becoming a BT. You can't play as Neil in the physical form in all of his Solid Snake glory, but in the certain scene here you can actually control him as a ghost. The doctors who were seemingly going to examine his body mentioned the need for corpse disposal as Neil's soul had left his body. While a BT would normally go to whatever person is near, Neil instead floats to Lucy's dead body. Here's when we see Sam show up and break down with his love dead and his child seemingly gone. Neil follows Sam, and whenever it was done on purpose or just the nature of being a BT, Neil makes contact with Sam, causing a void out and thus destroying the city. This event caused Sam to retire from Bridges and develop his asthmaphobia, the fear of being touched.
Per the records, they perished in a void out which claimed an entire city. A void out only you survived, Sam.
Lucy was pregnant at the time.
Neil's final fight with Sam was enough to finally let his soul be at peace, knowing that Lou was in good hands.
The child that Lucy was carrying wasn't Neil's. It was yours. Lucy left you a heartfelt apology, along with an explanation. Your child was extraordinary. The offspring of the repatriate was the world's first BB. Lucy knew that if the Bridges researchers found out, they would use the baby as a test subject. So she lied. She pretended the child was Vanna's to mislead them. But she always intended for you to discover the truth one day. That's why she gave this necklace to him.
So now we come on to the most crucial part of a story that everybody had speculated before Death Stranding 2 finally arrived. So at the start of Death Stranding 1, Sam comes across a BB that was supposed to be destroyed after its usage and it being paired with Igor. It was flagged for disposal until Sam plugged it in and Lou was able to detect BTs and do her job. After all the events of connecting America with Lou, he forms a bond with her, and realising she can survive outside the pod, starts a new life away from government control and overseers, as we see in the beginning of DS2. But the mystery behind BB-28 starts to unfold with a web of conspiracy behind what really happened. This pod unit was meant to be subsequently incinerated, as Deadman implies. After his investigation of checking through the records, he makes a startling discovery that many of us fans had only guessed at. Pulling up some models of BB-28, Deadman shows us the first pod that was officially marked into the system. Upon closer inspection, Deadman makes it clear that it was never Lou. Originally, as that the baby didn't have Lou's specific birthmark on her arm, and that the other BB-28 Sam was using in his expedition across the states was a different pod altogether, but under the guise of BB-28. One that was meant to be erased. And all of this was hinted as a bait and switch within these pods throughout the story.
As Deadman determined, there was another BB-28 that existed before Lou, which was decommissioned. Fragile later discovered that, 4 years ago, Lou was assigned BB-28 serial number, and for reasons unknown, placed into storage. Now, the first expedition also set off 4 years ago, and they could surely have made use of another functional BB unit, yet again, for reasons unknown, Lou remained in storage. So did they have other plans for Lou? Was Lou deemed unsuitable for sacrifice? Or was Lou excluded from the mission for some other reason?
What eventually comes out is that BB-28 wasn't the 28th baby used by Bridges, it was actually the first BB-0. However, there had been some secretive moves to seemingly erase Lou from the system. This resulted in Lou being in storage for 11 years and given the BB-28 designation. The most likely reason for this was to hide the details about where the baby came from and who the mother was. It was also likely that the person who brought Lou out of storage to be used again was the president of the UCA at the time, Bridget, aka Amelie, who knew Lou was Sam's daughter, and to possibly unite them when, he came out of retirement. After several encounters when Sam defeats Neil, Neil gives him a memory device that was left behind by Sam's late wife, Lucy. The data inside explains that Lou is actually Sam's daughter, who was thought to be killed along with Lucy in a void out. As the daughter of a repatriate, Lou was secretly abducted by Bridges and designated BB-0, the very first Bridge baby, and the mysterious figure we now know as Tomorrow, with incredible unmatched dooms and power showcased throughout the entirety of the story, is actually Lou, the baby that was in the pod in the first game but grown up as an adult. A lot of people told me that this promotional piece of art was just a reach in terms of confirming that Tomorrow was Sam's daughter, but it turns out I was proven right. It was implied as well that when Sam was doing his deliveries through Mexico, Fragile came under attack from Higgs and his mech unit, as you guys have seen. Fragile's soul managed to cling to life until she could ensure Lou's safety. As Drawbridge returns to the world of the living, Lou views Neil's memories and sees that Bridges killed both Neil and Lucy. In order to secure Lou herself survived Higgs' attacks on her home when Fragile teleported her to Neil's beach, and entrusted her safety to Neil's ghost.
Sam, there's something I haven't told you. When Higgs shot me, in that instant, my Ka and my Ha were separated from one another. And the fact that Lou and I were even able to make the jump had nothing to do with me. It was Lou. Lou connected us to those poor lost souls. And at the time, being with them seemed safer than with me. So I decided to leave Lou in their care.
Her body was encased in a chrysalis shell and was subjected to accelerated aging, hence why she appears older in such a short time. Since the beach time works differently, Lou grew up on the beach for decades, while it's only been weeks for Sam. Since she is Sam's daughter and has a connection to Amelie, the previous extinction entity, as it turns out, Lou is actually the next extinction entity.
I found someone new. Your very own baby girl, the extinction entity. I am truly grateful.
That Higgs intended to use to bring around the end of the world. Sam and Drawbridge pursue Higgs to the beach containing air pass. Sam had to acquire any link he could that ensured his connection to the beach, of course. Higgs had Amelie's Kwaipu, and Sam had to rely on an old photograph that was taken of Sam and Lucy, including Bridget, who acted as Amelie's body that allowed him to connect to this beach. With Sam on the beach, the player is greeted to an epic finale of the game. It is the grand endings. It left me with goosebumps again and adrenaline the entire time, because everything felt like a race against time as you pursue Higgs. The cinematic quality is beyond insane, and I really hate saying the word pure cinema, but it's true. The visual beauty really captures a larger-than-life setting. Huge BTs sprawl the beach as the Magellan swiftly flies around, giving you backup with cannons and machine guns. I was honestly surprised the game was running so smoothly considering how much was going on in the distance whilst I was on the move. I guess it made sense why my PS5 was very hot to touch. In the endgame of Death Stranding 2, right after completing Order number 46, which involves connecting all of Australia to the chiral network and defeating the Ghost Mech boss, there's a major twist. As you deliver Drawbridge's terminal unit, Higgs reappears, attacks Sam, and Fragile jumps in to defeat him using his own weapon. The electrified battle guitar, and yes, you guessed it, that epic guitar Higgs wields we can use too. The electrified battle guitar becomes a part of your arsenal, complete with melee fast attacks and ranged electrical blasts when aimed.
Fucking bastard! Oh, damn it!
Before I continue, I forgot to mention another Metal Gear reference, and you'll find quite a lot of these, so keep an eye out for them. In one of the scenes just before the final part of the game, Higgs is torturing Sam, and there's like a mode where you can tap the heck out of the button to try and escape from his torture. It's very reminiscent to Metal Gear Solid's torture sequences, especially Metal Gear Solid 4 when Snake has to crawl through that microwave.
Don't give up on me, Snake!
Buying a PS5 made it all worth the while because the DualSense controller really adds to that sense of weight behind each attack, and if you've got a PS5 you'll know what I'm talking about. At some point you'll finally get to fight Higgs aside from the other bosses he spawns you to. It seems he borrows Dead Man's red samurai suit as I mentioned before in an epic showdown that is ripped straight out of Metal Gear Solid. From the likes of MGS1 and Rising, and at some point the battle further ensues in a digital graveyard with a battle of a solo rock stars, and you and Higgs blast each other with epic riffs. This is everything Troy Baker would have wished for if he was in a band.
I want to hear you play.
Never thought you'd have this much fun in here. Grateful. He gave me a chance to sing. I did my best. I hope you guys like it because definitely, as you've seen, the music, the bar for the music in this game is super high. So I'm just happy to try and vault over it.
Everything else thus far has been incredible, including the Neo boss fights, but there's a reason Kojima kept this part at the very end. It's emotionally charged from start to finish. The cues of music and the placement of the character emotions just reeked of Metal Gear Solid, and honestly that's a good thing, and it's really everything that anyone's been talking about if they played Death Stranding 2. It's unique in its own right, but its predecessors live on throughout it. Death Stranding 2 feels like the game that doesn't need permission. It's wild and eccentric, everything that Konami would have seemed to oppose to. You can tell that Kojima has had pure creative control, and it shows. Then to add to the cherry on top of the grand cake, there's an epic final showdown that instantly springs to mind, as I've already mentioned, with Liquid and Snake, very reminiscent of these moments, and of course them fighting atop of Outer Heaven. You know, these legendary moments down to the health bar on the screen, the timed attacks, and slow motion segments that hone in desperation of the characters to fight to the death. As if someone dies on the beach as explained in the first game, there's really no returning back. Sam is able to defeat Higgs, who is subsequently killed by Lou, who appears as a big giant baby looming over as an extinction entity since Amelie is no more. And Lou, after recovering all her memories, Lou has an emotional reunion with Sam, realising that she is his daughter, which Sam pretty much gathered as Higgs' sentiment pretty much confirmed it earlier on in the game. The game ends emotionally charged and leaves you speechless.
I remember now. The journey the two of us went on together. You and me, Sam.
No.
We will always be connected.
And all I could think was this game is going to go down as a classic, but it's not over yet. Anyone who knows anything about Kojima realises at the end of every game, usually a secret at the end. A post-credit scene that shows an older Lou who has become a porter like her father, preparing to enter a plate gate, perhaps hinting at a third instalment into the series, rounding it off as a nice trilogy. Although it seems unlikely for now, as Kojima states he wants to move on to other projects he's been working on and his younger team to maybe perhaps continue Death Stranding in the future. Because Kojima's still working on games like OD and Siphon, a new unreleased action espionage game described as a potential spiritual successor to the Metal Gear Solid series. Konami, watch out. One thing is clear, age hasn't slowed Kojima down one bit. Death Stranding isn't a game for everyone, but there's no denying the level of quality that the game has to offer. And if you guys are big fans of Kojima's games, there's no doubt you're definitely going to love this. So, with all that being said, I'm your host, The Voicebox. Thank you for watching. Please hit that like button, consider subscribing if you're new here, and I'll see you guys on the next one. And remember, until we meet again.
That's why today is another day on the road.